Alright, let's take a look at cylinders, and we're going to find the surface area of these here. So, first things first, let's identify a few different parts of a cylinder that we're going to need to know for our formula, which we'll come up with in a moment. First of all, with a cylinder, there's a height that needs to be known, which is this distance here. And we're going to recognize that with a little h. And then we also have the radius. We're going to need to know the radius of whatever it is our base is. So that's radius. We're going to use a little r for that. Okay, now those are the only two parts, and you can see down here in the examples that are labeled, those are the only two things that you're going to need to know when you go to use the formula to solve for the surface area. Okay, now let me tell you what the surface area formula is. And it's a little bit longer than the other one, but it's less complicated, which is good. So surface area is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Okay, so it's a little bit longer, but notice you only have to solve and know, your radius and your height, which will be somehow related to you in the problem. We know that for pi we are using, like we did with circles, 3.14, so that avoids rounding errors. I know we have pi button on our calculator, but to avoid rounding mistakes, we're just going to use pi equals 3.14, and then they both have a 2. Okay, so the formula is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. And before we jump into solving one, let's see if we can understand where that formula comes from. Okay, it's always good to, hopefully, when possible, see where something came from, so it's not just like something that you're memorizing, but you can understand the background. What I've drawn here, this is the net of a cylinder. Okay, if I were to unfold, this is the top circle right here, this is the bottom. It would be right there, right here. Now if I were to put like a little tick mark and I were to roll this cylinder out until from the one side, whenever I started rolling it all the way till the end, I would end up getting something that looked like this. It would actually form a rectangle, as we see here. So this is our net. So what we said a surface area is, if you would find the area of this circle, this rectangle, and this circle, add them all together, that's your surface area. And that's where the formula comes from. So if we look here, the area of a circle, if you remember, you may have it memorized, maybe not, is pi r squared. And we have 1, 2 of those. So voila, 2 pi r squared. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Pi r squared is the circle formula, and we have 2. So 2 pi r squared. Now, the area of a rectangle is given to us by finding length times width. So we know that this distance here is represented by height. That's what we're calling it here. So we need to know that dimension, which we do, that's height. Then we need to know this dimension here. Now this one's a little harder to see, but if you were to take like a soup can, for example, and mark it like I said and unroll it, the distance that it would end up unrolling would be this whole distance around the top of our circle. What's the distance around a circle known as? The circumference. Nice job. The circumference formula, if you remember, and you do not have to have them memorized, but if you know it, the more familiar you are with them, the more easily the problems are going to come to you. But the distance around a formula, or their circumference, is given to us by the formula 2 pi r. Okay, so when we go to find the area of this entire rectangle, it's going to be h times 2 pi r, h times 2 pi r. And again, the order doesn't matter. We always put our number first, so that's why it's 2 pi r h. So we can see now that this formula, it's kind of long, it has a lot of different parts to it, and looks complicated. It does. You guys are doing challenging stuff. You should be very proud of yourselves. And we can see where it comes from. 2 pi r squared is just the area of the two circles. And then 2 pi r is this distance times height, which is that distance, and that tells us the area of the whole rectangle. Alright, so that's a little background math. Let's get working. We're going to practice 3 problems, okay? I'm going to do my best to keep them in the region that they are in, so I don't get too, into the next section. So area here. Surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. My radius is given to us. This is the radius, so it's 3.5. My height is given to us, that's 7. So I'm ready to start substituting in. 2 pi is 3.14. My radius is 3.5, so 3.5 squared. Plus 2 pi is 3.14. My radius is 3.5, and my height is 7. Okay, so I'm ready to start solving. Now my recommendation to you, I know we're always quick to go and get our calculators, and that's fine. You're definitely allowed to use your calculator, but do some simplifying in your head, mental math, before you go ahead and type everything into the calculator. And what I mean is, you've multiplied 2 times 3.14 a ton of times when we did circles. You should know that that's 6.28. We just do it a lot and it should come to you. So now, then on your calculator separately, do 3.5 squared, and that's going to be 12.25. Then we know 2 times 3.14 is 6.28. And then separately on your calculator, do 3.5 times 7. And you're going to get 24.5. And the reason I recommend that, and this one was a little bit more cumbersome than some others, but this way, now all you're doing is typing into your calculator a few things rather than all of this with all the parentheses and all the multiplication signs. Okay, so it's my recommendation, no matter what, please make sure you type everything in correctly. Maybe do it twice just so that you don't mess up, especially on a test or a quiz. So I multiplied everything out and I got 230.79. Unless you're told what to round to 2 decimal places is like our default. Okay, so 230.79 inches squared, that is our area, surface area of this figure. Okay, and that's all there was to it. It's a lot of numbers, but the hardest part's just substituting things in. Let's try letter B. This one's oriented a little differently, meaning it's the cylinder isn't sitting straight, it's laying down on its side. We still have our radius and our height identified. So even though this is flat down, this is still our height, because the radius is always going to be what relates to the circle, and then the height's the other dimension. So surface area is equal to 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. I can substitute in 2 times 3.14. My radius is 3 squared, plus 2 times 3.14. My radius is 3, my height is 11. So I'm going to do some work in my head. This is 6.28 times 9, because 3 squared is 9. And then this is going to be 6.28 times 33, because 3 times 11 is 33. So now if I want, I can go ahead and multiply this in my calculator, because I don't want to do decimal work if I have a calculator that I'm available to use. So I'm going to multiply everything together. And I find that my surface area is 263.76, and I have to label it meters squared. Okay? Nice job, guys. All right, one more we're going to take a look at, and this one's just as simple, but there's a small thing you have to pay attention to, and that's when we go to look at what they're giving us. The height is 4 feet, so that part's easy. But here they're identifying the straight across all the way through the center, which is known as our diameter. I don't want the diameter, I need to know the radius. So I'm just going to take half of that and write it as 5 feet, because I only want to know this distance here, my radius. Okay, so now that I've done that, everything's the same. Surface area is 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r(h). So it's going to be 2 times 3.14. My radius is 5, so it's 5 squared, plus 2 times 3.14. My radius is 5, and my height is 4. So I'm going to do a little bit of mental math in my head before I go ahead to type into the calculator. 28. Multiplying 5 squared is 25, 5 times 4 is 20, and now I can go ahead and multiply what I need to. I get 282.6, labeling it feet squared. I am done. Nice job, guys.